Hello, I'm Dr. Harper. This video is in Management of Operations, BUSN 6630. It's a Memo-to Excel lecture on linear programming. So let's bring up the memo. Memo number 2. Burnett, a small local distribution company, orders products from manufacturers, packages the products, and distributes the packaged product to retail customers in the Denver area. They have asked our assistance in re-examining their next production run for 2 special products. One product is a Disney sing-along book, and the second product is a combination of the same Disney sing-along book packaged with a CD of the songs. Although they have experienced the manufacturer increasing cost in the past, they have not examined the effect increased costs will have on production plans. The manufacturer has just increased the cost of the CD to $380, and there's the first information that we have. Well, the cost of the book remains at $120. So there's the second information. Although Burnett has decided not to change the price of the book only of $5.95 and book CD of $9.95, different production plans have been discussed due to change in the profit margin because the costs are changing. Due to heated arguments during planning meetings, the president, Ms. Burns, has requested our assistance in comparing different production plans. So this memo is asking us a comparative analysis of different production plans. Much of the conflict comes from some members of the planning committee that strongly hold to producing as much of the book CD as possible with available assembly and packaging resources. Let me highlight that. And then produce book only with remaining packaging resources. So that's, they strongly hold to this strategy. Although this approach has worked well in the past, newer members of the planning committee propose a possible increase in profits by considering alternative production plans that still comply with company constraints. We have been retained as outside consultants to examine and report on the underlying reasoning of the different approaches. So, what we're asked to do is a comparative analysis between different production plans and report on the underlying reasoning of the different approaches. Okay, Ms. Burns emphasized the strict constraints within their company. Since the company wishes to handle both the books and CDs, they require the number of book CD product produced to be no less than the book-only product before packaging. Let me highlight that. There we go. In other words, if we have book CD, be no less than, so it's greater than or equal to the book only. So let me just put that in brackets. So there's a constraint, and let me bold that because that's going to be a constraint. That's one of our constraints. Okay. A single production run consists of assembly and packaging operations performed over 3 days by different personnel. The first day, they have only one worker available for 8 hours during the day, dedicated to the assembly of the book CD product. Okay, so there's assembly equals 8 hours, and that's going to be also capacity. The capacity of assembly is for 8 hours. There we go. Let's bold that because that's going to be important to solve this problem, to prepare, to communicate. The next 2 8-hour days, they have 2 full-time workers dedicated to the packaging of both resources. Okay, so now we have a capacity of packaging, which equals 2 workers 2 8-hour days for packaging. Whatever that is. 2 8-hour days and 2 workers, 2 full-time workers. That's 32 hours. Let me just put that in there. 4 times 8 is 32. 32 hours. Okay, that's part of our capacity. Okay, we're building this. Okay, as we go. The packaging personnel do not assemble, and the assembly personnel do not package. They keep these two activities separate as well as personnel. Okay, we have been strongly informed to not violate these constraints, so they can't cross train or anything. Any production plan must satisfy these constraints. So there's our capacity, and there's our production constraint. Well, I asked for production standards for their assembly and packaging operations, and they quoted the following range. Each book CD requires assembly that consists of a shrink wrap process. One worker can complete 35 every minute. Okay, so this one here, and then let's put this in here. This is a constraint or standard. This is a production standard. So one worker can complete 35 every minute. So that's going to be 35 per minute. So that's going to be their standard of packaging. This is packaging. Assembly. Assembly equals 35 per minute of the shrink wrap process. Let's bold that. We're going to have to pull that back here in a minute. That's going to be important. The book-only product requires no assembly. Okay, that's 0. The book-only product is packaged 2 dozen to a box, and 230 boxes can be completed by one worker in 1 8-hour shift. Okay, so we have 2 dozen, 2 times 12 times 230. So that's 2 dozen to a box. 2 dozen to a box or 2 times 12. 230 boxes can be completed by one worker. Items per one worker in 1 8-hour shift during 8 hours. Okay, so that's going to be our production standard again. Packaging. Okay, let's bold that. We're going to need that. That's good information. Okay, the packaging is that many items over 8 hours. The book CD product is packaged. Okay, here comes the book CD. Oh, this is packaging of the book only. So this is book only. Book only packaging. The book CD product is packaged 1 dozen to a box, and 420 boxes can be packaged for shipment by one worker in 1 8-hour shift. Aha! Okay, very good. Standard of the book CD packaging equals, whoops, let me spell this right, ing, equals 1 dozen, 1 times 12 times 420 boxes, okay, it's items, per, let's see, one worker in 1 8-hour shift, again, 8 hours. And so there's the standard for packaging, and there that is. Okay. We have been asked to examine a production plan of the individual products without considering packaging requirements. Okay. In other words, they just want us to say how many items do we produce. They don't want us to say how many boxes we produce, the production plan of the individual products. not the packaging. Like, how many 420 boxes are there? How many 230 boxes? No. How many 2 dozen? 1 box per 2 dozen? No. They just want just number of products. They'll figure that out later. Okay, please prepare a response memo to Ms. Burns presenting comparative analysis of production plans and the underlying approaches for the next single production run within the constraints given. Be sure your response memo to Ms. Burns is suitable for discussion in their planning meetings with succinct but adequate information, including order quantities, distribution amounts, that's the final product. Order quantities, there's only 2. There's books and CDs, okay? Distribution amounts, well, there's 2 products that are going to be distributed, the book only and the book CD. And monetary values, well, monetary could be cost, could be revenue, could be profit, just those 3 things. Prepare a separate technical memo to me outlining the details of your analysis, including assumptions, procedures, and calculations. Prepare a video presentation to our internal analysis team. Okay, this is not to the client, it's to the analysis team, presenting the results of the comparative analysis suitable for discussion within our company. Okay, so it's more technical. To fully understand the issues before meeting with the Burnett Company due to previous heated arguments. In other words, make sure everyone understands what's going on before we go into the meeting. So this is a collegial support. Okay, so there it is. So let's start taking this information from this memo, and let's bring in Excel, and let's just start building the problem here. Let's enlarge this a little bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, first of all, let's look at the cost. Let's come down here a ways and say cost. Okay, first of all, the book cost, we have that it's up here. The book is 120, 1.2, and then the CD, the cost of the CD is 380, 3.8. Okay, now the product, the book only. Okay, up here we have the price and the book CD. Okay, the price of the book only, where's it at? The book only is $5.95, and the CD, book CD, both of these together is $9.95. Okay, now from here we can determine the actual profit, unit profit markup here. So this is going to equal our price of our book only minus our book cost. This is going to equal our book cassette minus the cost of the book and the cost of the CD, because they're together. Okay, so there's the profit, there's the unit profit for each one of these products. So let's box this in, because that's going to be important for us. Those 2 right there. Okay, and there it is. What else? Okay, comparing different production plans. Let's move this up. Much of the okay, well, here's the strategy. We'll come back to this one in a minute. The much hold to producing as much of the book cassette as possible with available assembly and packaging resources, and then produce the book only with remaining packaging. We'll do that. We'll do that here later. Okay, Ms. Burns emphasized strict constraints. Here we go. Since the company wishes to handle both the books and the CDs, they require, so this is going to be a constraint. That's a constraint. So let's bring Excel back here. We can do that constraint when we go back down into the constraints. We're not quite there yet to get all of the information. Here's our capacity. Let's do our capacity. Okay. Next down here, there's our capacity. So let's come down here and say capacity. Okay. Now we're going to have assembly and packaging. Okay, first of all, for the workers and the number of days. Remember, there's only one worker up here. Oh, here we go. Oh, for the assembly, there's only one worker. Where's it at? Here it is. One worker there, that's better. It's only one worker for 8-hour days assembly for the assembly, and then the 32 hours for the one worker for 1 day, 8 hours a day. Oops, 8 hours per day. Okay, so therefore the total simply is going to equal one worker times 1 times 8, which is 8 hours. So it's going to be 8 hours for that assembly. But the packaging, there's 2 workers for 2 days at 8 hours. And so that's going to be, should be 32. And so this is 32. So this is hours. All right? Instead of hours, let's do the total. Let's also do minutes. Equals this times 60. Okay. So that's going to be how many minutes their availability capacity. Okay, so that's our capacity. That's this part right here for the assembly and the packaging, and we'll box this in because this is going to be important. We're going to use that in a minute. Okay, let's come down to here, and now for production standards. Here we go for the production standards. Okay, first of all, let's do the assembly. Come down here for assembly. Assembly. Now the assembly will equal for the book cassette, because the book only doesn't require any assembly. Let's move this down a little bit. So for this one, bring this up. Right here, we are going to have the number. There's 35 time per minute. 1 minute. Okay. So for the assembly standard, we are going to okay, this is going to equal 1 over 35. That's simply going to equal, that's going to be minutes per item. Okay, so that's going to be our standard right there for assembly. So let's box this in. And now for packaging, okay, now we're going to have a book only and book cassette. Okay, so remember we had number per box. This was 2 dozen per box. This is 1 dozen per box. And this is the number of boxes. Number of boxes. There was 230 and 420. Okay, and this is the hours. This is 8 and 8. Oops, 8. Okay, now the standard. Well, remember, standard is time per item here. So this is going to equal, let's see, 8 hours equals 8 hours divided by the number that's going to be produced, which is 24 times 230, and that's 0, 0, is hours per hours, okay, whatever that is. But then if we want, remember this is 8 hours, so if we wanted this, then we're going to, this is in hours, equals this times 60 will simply be minutes. So this is our standard in minutes. Minutes per item. Minutes per item. And so there's our packaging right there. I'm not gonna label this. This is hours per item. This is minutes per item. This is what we're going to be interested in. Okay. I'm going to use minutes as minutes because it's more they have more discrimination. Okay. And then finally, I think we can put all this together for the solution. And okay, first of all, we're going to have book only and book cassette. Now, since they're interested in assembly and packaging, and then also the demand, we're going to pull that back in and profit. Now, because they're looking at, let's come back down here. Because they're looking at the increase in profits by considering alternative production plans, let's just see what the optimal profitability is. And that's why I'm going to solve it this way. Okay. Well, assembly for book only is just 0. Okay. But then for the assembly for the book cassette, this is going to equal, it's going to right here, the minutes per item. Now for the packaging, that's going to equal minutes per item here. And this is going to be minutes per item. Okay. And then the demand. Remember the demand up here. Let's come back to the demand. Here it is right here. The book cassette is greater than the book only. Okay, well here's my book only here. Here's my book cassette. And so this is going to be this right here. Over here's my capacity. Go ahead, let's put the capacity in. Because we pretty much know what the capacity is up here. Here it is, 480 and 1920. So this equals 480, and this one equals 1920. Okay, now we know that the number, well, down here is going to be our variables. This is where we're going to, this is our decision variables. Box these, and shade these. This is what we're changing. But the idea here is that we want this constraint. Well, this is going to be less than, so let's flip it over and do it the other way. In other words, let's have the book only less than or equal to, the book cassette. Okay, kind of do it the other way. And then bring the book cassette over to the left-hand side, and that's book only minus the book cassette is less than or equal to 0. Now the reason I'm doing this is because this is going to be 0, less than 0, less than 480, less than 1920. Then this will be less than 0. So this will be 0. So then what are these over here? It's going to be 1 and minus 1. Okay, this is 1 and this is minus 1. So those are the coefficients here. And now our profit. Where's our profit? Equal to profit for the book only. Profit here for the book only is going to be 475. And then the profit for the book cassette equals, up here, profit for the book, the book cassette right here is going to be 495. Okay. So this right here is going to be our solution. There's our setup. So let's enlarge this. So now let's come to solver, data, solver, and we want, whoops, we haven't set it up yet, sorry. Now we have the values. Equals the sum product of the coefficients times the actual values, F4 to freeze those. And then let's just copy this down for the assembly, for the packaging, for the demand relationships, and then the profitability. And that profit is what we're going to optimize. We want to maximize our profit. Now we'll come to solver, and notice, there's our objective function. We want to maximize profit by changing these cells right here. Now we're going to add. We want the values here to be less than or equal to these. Well, let me back up. Change these. These two values are less than or equal to these two values. Now let's add this value is going to be equal to the 0. We want that to be equal to 0. We could do that. That way it's exactly. Or let's go ahead and say okay. Let's delete these. That's one way to do it. Okay. Another way to do it simply is, like they say, no less than. So then we could say these values will be less than or equal to these values. Okay. So either one of those would work. Let's do it this way. Non-negativity, simplex algorithm. Then say solve, ready, go. Okay, we found a solution. Say okay. So now here is the actual, we're making this many with this profitability right here. Okay, so that's the profit. Now, when we look at this thing, we say, well, wait a minute. What do they do, though? This is the optimal solution. We'll call this solution 2. What is solution 1? In other words, pretty much the way they're doing it now, you know. Well, let's come down here, book only, and book cassette, and then over here is your the profit. Okay, so really we're trying to make as much of the book cassette as possible with available packaging assembly resources, right? And so how many can we make with those resources? You know, and so we'll just take 480 divided by this, and we have 16,800. So that's this is the maximum we can make. But if we make 16,800, then how much of this can we make? Well, we're going to have 1920 minus this divided by this. In other words, how much book only can we make? Well, whatever resources are left over from 1920. After we make 16,800 of the book CD with those packaging, whatever's left over, then we can use the book only. In other words, when we look at this, we say, okay, well, let me just put it over here. Over here, let's just say equals the 1920 divided by this. Notice we can make 20,000. Well, we can only make 16,800 because that's all the assembly resources we have. But we can make more than that. Okay. As a matter of fact, if I take this minus this, we see we can make 3,000 that we haven't made. But that frees up those resources for our book only. Okay, so so how we're going to do this is simply says, okay, this is going to equal. So if I can do this the right way, let's take the 1920 minus the 16,800 times that, and so that's going to be how many resources of that we're making, and then divide that by the book only standard. So we can make 3,680. So that's the profit they have. Actually, that's the current. That's the solution 1. Let's bring that down. Whoops. So that's solution 1. Now solution 2, we have up here. This is going to equal this. And notice they're equal. These are equal. Now what's the profit? Well, let's see here. Sum product of our, how many we're making, times our profit here, profit margins, F4. And so there's going to be our profits right there and right there. Okay, so this is our solution 1. This is what they're doing now. And then this is how much more profit they can make. Okay, and so we can see how much of increase there is. But then the insight, notice what they want to know. They want to know the internal analysis suitable for discussion in our company. Let's see here. Including assumptions, procedures, and calculations. Comparative analysis suitable for to fully understand the issues before meeting with them. Okay, so they're going to talk about the reasoning behind it. Okay, well, essentially, it's pretty straightforward here. We're saying, well, notice the maximum profit is that these are equal, which means this production amount goes down, this production amount goes up. So we need to shift resources from the book cassette over to the book only. But notice we can't go too far. In other words, right now book cassette is more than book only because we still have this constraint. Let me pull this constraint down. So that's a limited, we cannot violate this. So the idea here is that, well, how much can we lower this book cassette? Well, how much can we lower it to here? How much can we increase the book only to increase profit? There. So that's the limit. And so we want alternative plans. What about solution 3? Or 4, or 5, or 6? Well, it's somewhere between these two, okay? It's not all the way down to here or all the way up to here. It's in between. Okay, well, why would we go in between? Well, maybe we need to look at some of these resources up here and how we can change our resources going from using our workers. Okay, and not really, we can't shift our workers from one day to the next or from assembly to packaging. We can't do that. We can't shift these workers around, but we can certainly increase and decrease their times. And it looks like, so we can look into that. But I'll let you to look into that and see if you want to get into that in more detail. Anyway, so that's pretty much the gist of the thing. And remember, for the memo, what you need to do is prepare a responsible to Ms. Burns presenting a comparative analysis of the production plans and the underlying approaches, let me underline that, for their next single production run within the constraints given. Don't violate the constraints, but we can shift between these two production plans. Okay, and then the profit will move from 100,000 to 102,000, 220. Okay, so that's what the memo is about. And also the video, though, the video is going to be for internal analysis team for them to understand the details before we move into the meeting. So everyone on the team that's going to be meeting with this company understands the dynamics. Okay, so that's the video for the Memo 2 Excel lecture. To get started, we're a team. I did the analysis part. I hope I've given you enough to do the presentation. Just write up the memos and put together a video and present it. Now for the video, you certainly can create a video using the help in Canvas on making a video. That's all I have for this. Before the next time I see you, everyone, take care.